So I guess in my opinion, is this book worth the hype? Oh, hello everyone. I am so excited to get into today's video, into today's vlog, because this is a vlog that I have planned for literally so long, and I'm happy that I waited till this time to do it because more books have come out than some of the ones that I originally had in mind for my first ever fantasy romance reading vlog. So like I just said, I have wanted to do this for a while, but I never really had a TBR that I was super excited about. But then I feel like in these recent months, some really hyped up fantasy romance books have come out. So I was like, okay, let me get it together. Let me see what audiobooks I can get, what I need to check out from Kindle, what I have on my Kindle, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Gather the books, set the TBR, and then get the ball rolling on this vlog. Oh, also worth noting that this is a completely spoiler-free vlog. I don't have any spoilers in here. I just give you my general thoughts and reviews of each book. So no spoilers, so don't worry about that. If you don't know my background with reading, I am obviously a very large romance reader, but I wouldn't consider myself to be the biggest fantasy, paranormal, anything like that sort of reader. I do read them. I have books in the genre that I love. I mean, the Caraval series by Stephanie Garber is technically a YA. I would consider that a fantasy romance series. It's definitely fantasy, but then there's also a heavy romance in it as well. But then really aside from that, I can't think of many other books that I love that are technically like fantasy romances, but has that changed after this video? You will just have to wait and see. So what are the 5 books that I put in this video? I will tell you. First up, we have The Deal with the Elf King by, what is her name? Elise Kova. It's on the screen. So we have this book. Then we have What Lies Beyond the Veil by Harper L. Woods. The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadband. Is that how you say it? Have a physical copy of this one. Then you will also get my thoughts on The Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. And then finally, A Kingdom of Stars and Shadows by Holly Renee. I think that is enough for this intro. If you want to hear my thoughts on the 5 books that I just mentioned, please keep watching, and let's just get right on into the vlog portion of today's video. Oh, hello. I'm here with my first check-in for this vlog. I finished my first book. And I'm really sad to report that we're not off to a good start. I just finished A Deal with the Elf King. Now, I'm so sorry, I can't even remember what the author's name is. It begins with an E. Is it like Elisa Kova or something? Whatever. Obviously, it's on the screen. I am so sorry to this author, but unfortunately, this fell so flat. Like, this is the true definition of a bland book. So the reason A Deal with an Elf King was even on my radar, I purchased this in an Audible sale, not even last year's Audible sale, the year before. And I saw it floating around like TikTok and stuff. I mean, listen, I love the cover, and I was like, okay, it's gonna be a spicy fantasy romance book. That was my impression of it. I also knew that it was a Hades and Persephone inspired tale. And honestly, since I have purchased this audiobook, I haven't seen anyone who I know read it or talk about it. I am deceased because I just finished this audiobook and the guy just said her name and I can't remember her name. The guy's name begins with an E and I can't even say it. So this book is about our main girl, and you would never guess who our main guy is, the Elf King. So she's in this town, and she's kind of like a healer within her town. And the tradition in this town is, you know, I don't know how many years, whatever, the Elf King marries a human queen. Like, he marries a human woman, and that is supposed to be his queen, and the queen is supposed to be like shown to him, whatever. I don't know if it's every year or probably every whatever amount of years. And this year, the town is kind of freaking out because they're like, well, we don't have a human bride this year for the Elf King, blah, 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 X, Y, and Z. So, blah, 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 something happens when the Elf King is there. Her, like, true powers and strength are shown. He's like, that's gonna be my queen. And again, it's a very, like, in the beginning, you could tell that this was 100% a Hades and Persephone inspired tale, with the main guy coming in, bringing her down into the, into his world. And there's also references in here to, like, springtime and the seasons, and again, her being connected with nature and healing and, just all of that. It screamed very Hades and Persephone, which I liked. I thought the beginning of this book was like fun enough. I was interested in what was going on. I was like, okay, I like the vibes. I can get down with this. And then it just got so boring. I also swear that this was marketed as a spicy book. Babes, there is no spice in here. None. Negative. Zero. And my biggest issue was, while the main couple had a lot of interactions, there was just like no angst or no tension. Like, they didn't have any moments with each other where you're just like, ooh, okay, it's a slow burn. Tension is building. Maybe it's a little bit of like an enemies to lovers situation, because there is a point at the beginning when she's really mad at him, and then it kind of turns into, if she completes this one task, then she can go home, and like he's gonna help her with her powers. And like, I feel like there was so many missed opportunities for them to just have these really like tension filled moments, and it was just so flat. Happy that the world building in this book was very easy to follow. Like, I basically understood what was going on the entire time, even when I was tuning out tuning out for a second there listening to the audiobook. I honestly don't have much else to say about this book because, as you can see, I was, a little disappointed in it, and I'm sad that it just didn't live up to my expectations and it didn't turn out to be what I wanted. But this is the first book, in the vlog. So the other books, now the bar is like on the floor, so we can only go up from here. That was everything about A Deal with the Elf King. Wah wah, a little bit of a miss. But I will update you guys when I have any updates on the next book that I decide to start, or, when I finish it. We will see what happens. Oh, hello. I'm here because I finished another book. And what book did I finish this time? What Lies Beyond the Veil by Harper L. Woods. Now, this is Adelaide Forrest. This is her other pen name. So I've read now from both Harper L. Woods and Adelaide Forrest. Going in, I was hopeful that I was gonna like What Lies Beyond the Veil. And I actually did. I purchased this audiobook from Audible a while ago. I do have regrets because you can actually find her audiobooks on Hoopla, I noticed. So like The Coven is there, the first two books in this series are there. So I would check there if you want some Harper L. Woods, Adelaide Forrest audiobooks. I also actually received the first two books in this series as a beautiful PR box from Adelaide a while ago as well, when the second book was coming out. So I've had this book on my radar for a very long time. My physical copy is hiding somewhere, so I'm not going to show my physical copy, but I do have this book physically. And the thing is, overall, I am going to give this book 3.5 stars because I definitely liked it more than A Deal with the Elf King, for sure. This book definitely had more of what I wanted in terms of, like, our main couple. It definitely had some good angst between them. They definitely had way more like romantic moments, tension-filled moments that I really believed. He was very protective over her, which I liked. And, this was overall definitely better, but it still wasn't anything, again, that's super memorable for me. So what happens in this world is there's literally something called the Veil, and the Veil is meant to protect the humans from the Fae. So the Fae on the other side are obviously all powerful creatures, very, scary. So they have this thing called the Veil that protects them from the Fae coming in. This book is like a lot to set up, and like I don't even want to set it up, but what else am I missing? So the main girl has been abused by the king for a while. Her father was used as a sacrifice at one point, like years ago. And now the king is like, hey, if you don't marry me, you'll be the next sacrifice. And I guess that's like unheard of two people from the same family to be a sacrifice. But the whole thing happens. She rejects the king. They're like, okay, we're gonna sacrifice you, and then all hell breaks loose because the veil gets broken down. So then her and her brother flee. Oh, so then we find out that the main girl is like marked by the Fae, which means that like she has a Fae mate, and the Fae mate is gonna stop at nothing until he finds her. So like if you're marked by the Fae, that means that you have a Fae mate out in the world. So that obviously is a little scary because everyone, you know, is scared of the Fae. The main girl gets saved by the guy who is also marked by the Fae, and then it's just like their journey together. Obviously, it's like that forced proximity traveling element, like survival element. And yeah, the same thing with Deal with the Elf King. It just felt like so meh. Like I just couldn't connect to it. I don't know why. You know, it definitely had some spice in there, not a lot, but it had a little bit. Again, like the main guy was like very protective of the main girl right away, which like I liked, and the main girl was definitely very strong and very smart. That happens in this book. But basically, everything that happened, I really didn't care that much about. One of the reasons why I guess I'm interested to check out the rest of the series is apparently it gets even like darker, because I wouldn't call What Lies Beyond the Veil dark like really at all, but apparently it definitely gets more intense as the series goes on, and that I find, you know, interesting. Like I do like darker romances and stuff like that, so I'm curious to see how this would get darker. So that's what kind of intrigues me about the rest of the books in the series. So again, if I was ever like at a loss for something that I needed to listen to, and again the audiobooks are on Hoopla, I would like potentially check it out in the future. I mean, definitely once the characters got together, it definitely read like a fantasy romance, which again I liked, because my problem with Deal with the Elf King is I did not get the romantic connection between them at all. This book, I did actually get the romantic connection, which was good. Wish me luck. This vlog is not off to the best start because, you know, the first two books were unfortunately not memorable for me. And hopefully we just keep going up and up from here. All right. Hello, friends. It is quite literally 12:07. It is midnight. And a couple minutes ago, I finished The Serpent and the Wings of Night by, what is her name? Carissa Broadbent. And let me tell you, Carissa Broadbent, therapy. Therapy is what I need after this book. I listened to this on audio, which was the correct choice because it is a longer book. It's literally a 14-hour and something audiobook, which is very long for me. But I did basically finish it in a day. And this was such a surprise for me, guys. Like I was not, like this book is very popular, which is why I put it in this video. And I know, so like, I think everyone who I know who read it loved it, literally gave it 5 stars. This is the first book in a series, not a complete series. Sequel is out now. Audiobook for the sequel doesn't come out until August. And even though it's a longer book, I may just have to read it on Kindle because I do believe this series is available on Kindle Unlimited, which is good. But anyways, what I'm trying to say is I fucking love this book, and I think I'm actually going to give it an infinite star rating. I think this is going to go into a god tier book for me. I was not expecting this, but I'm literally obsessed with this book and this world. I cried. If you watch my Insta stories, this is the book that I was crying about. At the end, like the last chunk of this book, like I guess maybe the last 40 minutes of the audiobook, 30 to 40 minutes of the audiobook, because I started to like tear up because I was so overwhelmed by what was happening. Like I was so on edge, and I can't remember the last time a book had me this on edge with like an ending chunk, like an ending piece. And I teared up, actually cried. Then I was calm, something else happened and I cried. Then I was just numb. And that's actually how I'm feeling now. I'm feeling a little numb. So this book is all told through Araya's perspective. And this one is kind of, I really feel like a good way to describe this is like the Hunger Games with vampires. So Araya in present day is 20 years old, but the thing is with her story is she was literally found by this vampire king when she was a little baby. There was like a whole war attack somewhere. She was left as a child, and this vampire king found her. She was very like feisty with him, and he was like, "Yep, I'm taking this baby. I'm taking her in, raising her as my own." She looks at this vampire king, his name is Victor, I think, as, like a father figure. She's like, "That's my dad," even though they're not blood related. And then when she's of age, or like when the time comes, I don't know if it's like a vampire goddess or something, a moon goddess. I can't remember the specifics. Don't ask me. But basically there's this tournament that goes on, and like you can decide to compete in it, and it's literally like a survival, and there's like different trials. I think there was about 5 of them, and they happen like a few weeks apart. So you have the one trial, then you get like 3 weeks, you go into another trial. So Araya then at one point has to team up with Rain, the vampire guy. So they become an alliance. They train with each other. He's a vampire, she's a human, but he can control himself around her. And there's other characters in here. And this book was just filled with action. It was so entertaining. I was like barely bored. So that's how you know. And me, my first thing is to say if I thought a book was too long. And honestly, I just didn't mind the length of this book. Like, obviously it did go on for a little bit long, but I was really invested clearly the whole time. I mean, I was crying. It was just so action-packed, which I loved. And then also, I loved the relationship. I was crying because I was so invested in these characters and this couple by the end of the book. And I just really liked the way the relationship progressed in here. I would call this, it's a true fantasy romance, like for sure. Obviously, it's a slower burn because like they just work together, and then things slowly go from there. It's not spicy. There's only literally like one spicy scene in here. I feel like this is kind of marketed as a spicy book, but it's not a spicy book. I am just so excited to get to the sequel. Obviously it ends on a big cliffhanger, and I don't know, I don't want to spoil too much. I went into this book really blind. All I knew was that it was a human girl and a vampire, and I kind of remembered the trials, like that kind of like, Hunger Games, like fight to the death aspect of it. And like, that's it. And honestly, I really think that's all you need to know. I'm not, like I said, I'm not a fantasy romance person, especially like adult fantasy romance. Like, this book is definitely adult. It's not like new adult or YA. It's adult, which I love. And for me to like it, I don't know, I just think there's something really special about it. Oh, this was an absolute win. 5 stars, but really beyond 5 stars. Chef's kiss. Utter perfection. I'll say it does make me nervous now going into these last 2 books, because how are they going to compete? How are they going to compete with this? But we will see, and I will update you guys when I finish the next book on this fantasy TBR journey. Okay guys, I finished another book, and this is a big one. This morning I finished The Fourth Wing. Yes, here I am. I finished The Fourth Wing on audio this morning. I did listen to the audiobook. It was on Scribd. It took me basically 2 days to finish, and I must say, I am giving this book 5 stars. Right off the bat, if I am going to compare this book to The Serpent and the Wings of Night, I did like that one more. This one though, it's funny because at some points I was kind of like, is this going to be a 5-star read for me, or is it more of like a 4.5? Then it just really picked up at the end, and I was like, no, yeah, I really love this. I really love what's going on. I'm beyond invested. I thought this book was so well done, so I just had to give it 5 stars. It was just delightful. It was also a very, very well done audiobook. It does technically have 2 narrators, but Teddy Hamilton literally only comes in the end to do like one thing. So it is, I can't remember the female narrator's name, but it is her the entire time, and she did such a good job. It's a very well done audiobook. So if you like audiobooks and you want to check this out, totally recommend the audiobook as well. It was great. I also would like to say that I personally went into this book really, really blind. All I knew about this book was literally on Rebecca Yaros's Instagram. There's like a picture where it points out the tropes, and it's like, oh, it's like a dragon college, chronic illness representation, enemies to lovers, and like stuff like that. Like very simple tropes. I did not really know what this book was about, except that the girl is like a dragon rider and it's like a college situation. That's all I knew. And honestly, I feel like that was a fun way to go into it. I really don't want this book to get spoiled for you. And I would hope, you know, if this book is on your radar, I don't want you to get it spoiled. I didn't see any spoilers about this book going into it. So again, it was really fun to just uncover the world and what was really going on in like real time and, you know, not knowing anything that was going to happen. Also, this vlog has made me realize that I literally hate describing fantasy books and I just don't want to do it. Like, I don't want to do it. So this book follows Violet and her friends while they're at this school trying to be dragon riders. And it's basically a program that like not many people survive. So listen, the odds are against them. The odds are definitely against Violet because she does have a chronic illness and she is prone to injury and she's just a little bit smaller than she's supposed to, but she's such a badass. The enemies to lovers in here was so good. I loved the romance. What's his name? Xander. I like when you listen to audiobooks, I'm always like, what is the name? You know, when it's these like weird names. Also some spice in here as well, which is fun. I also knew that it was going to be spicy. Listen, I won't tell you how spicy, but the spice that's in here, let's just say it was really good. The only reason for like a split second, if I wasn't sure if it was going to be 5 stars, is because this book is quite long and the audiobook did feel like a long audiobook. I wouldn't say it necessarily dragged, but there was like one little chunk in like the middle there where I was like, okay, what's going on? Do I really care? But then again, it totally turned itself around and I was back into it and I was obsessed. I love the characters in here, dragons and everything else included. It's just really, really fun. And I really see why people love it. I think it's very well written. And again, truly action packed. Like this book is very entertaining. It's nonstop, literally from right off the bat. It's just action, action, action. There's so much going on. I did think the world building was also easy to follow as well. You know, for me not being a big fantasy person, a big part for me liking a fantasy book is I do have to understand what's going on. I didn't find what was going on in here confusing. I just thought it was really fun and really different to read something about like dragons and like the kind of magic that's in here. So I guess in my opinion, is this book worth the hype? I would say yes, it is. And I just thought this book was extremely well done, really easy 5-star read. Like I said, totally recommend the audiobook and I'm just ready for some more dragon riding in the future when the sequel is out. This is the final vlog clip update. Because I finished the final book for this vlog. Yay! This is the one book that I read physically on my Kindle. This book is available on Kindle Unlimited, I believe. Audiobook is an Audible exclusive, but honestly, it's really short, so I would read it like on your Kindle or physically or something. This is my first book by Holly Renee, and I didn't really know anything going into this book, except that I knew that it was a really short, quick read, and that it was going to be very spicy, and then obviously that it was a fantasy romance. I have a lot of mutual friends who are more fantasy romance readers who love Holly, love her books, love this series, highly recommend it. So I was very excited to finally get to it myself. And overall, I really enjoyed this. I had a lot of fun. I think it's such a solid 4-star read because it wasn't perfect, you know, especially compared to like the other 2 books in this vlog that I gave 5 stars. I didn't feel like the same emotions, but this was a quick and fun, spicy fantasy read, and it was super easy to follow, very, very fast paced. Like I literally finished it in 2 days, which is amazing. I think this is a great book for people who normally like to read just like really spicy romances, but maybe they want to switch it up and add that little fantasy element in it. I think this is such a great pick because it definitely doesn't skimp on the spice. For sure, miles above the other one in, you know, spice level. It's definitely not all straight smut, but there's definitely an abundance of tension between the main characters. It's a forbidden romance, and again, there's you know, good spice in here, so that's why, you know, I thought this was just very, very entertaining. You know me, I don't know these people's names, but let me see. Their names are Everin and Adara, yes. So Adara is basically taken from her town because she is like marked. She has a special marking where like it looks like she has freckles on her face and like on her back, but they're actually stars. And like she has like a power within her, even though she's a human. She just doesn't really know how to harness that power. But basically, they call her like the Star Blessed. So she is, you know, supposed to marry this prince from this other kingdom. Turns out that forbidden element, well, maybe should I say the forbidden element? I don't know. I mean, I don't want to spoil it because I didn't know anything about this book. But let's just say there's a forbidden romance element. So, you know, she has to deal with the prince who she's supposed to marry and then someone else, let's say. That's where the forbidden romance comes in. And so she's the Star Blessed, but also in this world there are vampires and fae. I think, you know, like some people have magic. They're scared of like the vampires, and apparently the union between our main girl and the one prince is supposed to like give them enough power to fight off their enemies. That's what I was gathering. You know, because this book was shorter, again, I don't really feel like I have too much to say about it, except it obviously leaves off on a cliffhanger. I would definitely read the sequel, especially knowing that the books in this series are all, you know, short, fast-paced, good spice. I liked Holly's writing. I thought this book was just very like my taste. I liked a lot of things, you know, that happened in it, some tropes. The main guy is definitely very protective, like touch her and you die. So all that really fun stuff. It's on Kindle Unlimited. It's been on my TBR for a while, so I feel very accomplished finally knocking this one off my TBR as well. So like I said, that was it. That was the last book that I'm going to talk to you guys about in this vlog. So we will wrap it up here, go on over to outro Kelly, and then we will finish up this video. Oh, hello. That's it. We've reached the end of the vlog. This was a roller coaster, wasn't it? At first, I wasn't sure how this was gonna go because I really was just so like, oh, okay, about the first two books I read, but then this vlog completely did a 180, totally turned itself around. I have some new books that I read here that I just absolutely love and adore. So I'm so happy I did this vlog. I thought it was super successful. I mean, obviously now, what am I, in my fantasy romance era? Who is she? A new era of Kelly Reynolds reads. I would love to know down below if you've read any of these books and you love them. Please let me know. If you have any other fantasy romance recs that you think I would like, drop those down below as well. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Share the video. It means so much to me. It really helps me out. All of my socials are linked down below as well. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!